Good evening, Charles. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's really pretty special, the first of this year, the decade, and we've got a pretty special lineup, including yourself. So could you introduce for our audience yourself and what do you do?
So I'm Charles Radclyffe. I'm the head of AI for Fidelity International. I get to play with tech, which I love.
You do love, and now just cue Nokia.
Just say not all Fidelity tech is the sales.
Wonderful.
We've got some new tech as well,
But it's part of your New Year's resolution, you said. So let's just see how far you can go without a smartphone. So talking about banking and the theme of tonight, what will unlock open banking? So in your opinion, so what have we achieved when it comes to open banking adoption and implementation?
So I think everyone's going to say the same thing, which is, Britain's at the forefront of this. We've got a really good open banking framework. We've got a set of standards which everyone is copying or looking at very closely in terms of adopting their thing globally. But I think the problem is that those of us who are excited about it are just the industry insiders. That's the set of people who really care about this. If you ask most consumers, they don't give a stuff about open banking or PSD2 or any of these things. What they care about is access to products and services, cheaper and more easily, and those sort of things. And I think what we've got is two challenges. One is opening up the ecosystem and being able to do more, and then second is communicating the benefits to consumers. And I think it's very easy for us in a bubble to kind of get very excited about what we do, but I think that's the biggest challenge over the next 10 years is to raise the awareness and to be able to do more and not just talk and write about it.
Well, it's really interesting you're talking about the consumer, but I've had a conversation with an expert in the field as well, so we're all kind of getting really big opinions, and they've said actually they don't see as the you as the consumer of open banking, but actually the likes of fintechs, they are actually the target for open banking because they're the people who are kind of making it work. And in the background, individuals don't really need to know what's going on so far as, they've got everything working, everything runs smoothly and fast, they don't really need to know what open banking is about. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think ordinary people don't need to know about what open banking is about, but I think they need to get excited about the capability, and also we need to build that channel of feedback from, that's really where this is going to come alive, is to understand, what are the products and services that wouldn't have been possible but for this capability, and to be able to offer that. And we need to build that feedback loop. So, I do think the fintech community is obviously important. I've been part of that fintech community for a number of years, but I don't want to sort of kind of think, hurrah, we're all doing fine. I think we need to extend that reach. And I think, London has a lot of strengths in terms of the fintech community. Great regulatory environments. I think incumbents are really engaged. I think 2020 is very exciting because most big organisations in the space have a strategy of working with fintechs. But we've got to get that feedback loop from users and from customers and get them excited. And I think if we can do that, we're in business.
Well, that's really interesting. You talked about London, that we're at the heart of it. So let's talk about 2020 and key trends for open banking. So what are they?
So I think for me, working in a pensions industry, I think the key thing is obviously the scope of what we're focusing on today is quite narrow and quite limited, and I think what we need to see is a vision and some clear milestones and direction towards open finance and I think for me that's the most interesting thing. If you look at the pensions industry, which is quite traditional, the biggest opportunities come from breaking down those barriers in terms of interoperability between pensions providers and also making it easier for fintechs to build services and capabilities on that. It requires firms like ours to build a bigger API ecosystem and also working with our peer group in order to define standards. But we shouldn't be on the fringe of this whole activity. We need to be a little bit more central into it. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Well, it sounds amazing. And on the back of it, what you've just said, okay, so what kind of innovative products should we be expecting this year in open banking?
So that's something I've been thinking a lot about. And if I look around, I think any one of us in London can see that how we solve a problem like what do we eat tonight has been solved in a very different way to how it was solved a decade ago. So now I can get an app out, I can buy any food, it can be here in 10-20 minutes thanks to a lot of different companies like Deliveroo, etc. And I think what's really interesting is that's completely changed a market dynamic. It's also created a whole set of people who are working in the gig economy who don't have any sort of employment benefits because the nature of what they do is very different to the traditional worker economy. And I think so one of the things I'm really interested in is to see how open finance can enable a problem to be solved for those people. And that problem is the same as the interoperability problem between pension providers for people in mainstream employment. The big difference, of course, is that gig workers work simultaneously for 2 or 3 different platforms, maybe even in the same day. And so all the complexity that we've got in solving interoperability is kind of on steroids when it comes to solving the problem for that group of people. There's 1.2 million gig workers, I believe, in the UK. A much larger number than that globally. So I think that's a real benefit to people, helps them with their financial health and well-being. And I think for me that's the most exciting thing about this whole space.
Okay, so watch this space, the pension space. Yeah, it's really good. Well, one final question from me. So, as I said, it's pretty amazing to have you tonight with us. So you came for a reason. So where do you see the value of the evenings like Open Banking Excellence Evening, and how can we support the adoption and implementation of open banking in 2020 and beyond?
Yeah, so I think the opportunity for people like myself working in a large organisation is that transfer of skills and culture and enthusiasm from the fintech world. So for me, I love any opportunity where the corporate traditional worlds can interface and scout and hunt and find interesting capabilities and ideas, and then bring those back into the firm. But I think what's great about the attendee list you've got today, and speaking to you and some of the other people around the planning of this, is that you've got real thought leadership and real world-class thinking around how to not just how it should be vision-wise, but how to implement that operationally. So I'm here to learn, and it's a great honour to be speaking. But I'm here to learn more than I'm here to do anything else tonight. So
well, very humble, Charles Radclyffe. Thank you so much.